Here we go. All ones.
The tale of the Hivers, as many things of this world, began around the time the Second Empire fell. As this empire slowly faded away, so did the Hivers slowly appear on our continent. These Hivers founded 3 colonies in our lands, one deep in the south at the heart of the dying empire of Caste. These South Hivers are extreme isolationists who will violently defend their territory from all trespassers. Then there are the West Hivers. These hivers are merchants who use the trade of wares as a means to gain resources for their hive and to keep an eye on potential threats. Much of what the West Hivers trade in is of little use to them and is solely made for non-hivers, such as the prosthetic limbs they are known for, as hivers are exiled from the hive when they lose a limb. The third is a lost hive known as the Dead Hive, whose dozens can be found wandering the Fog Islands, as long ago they had lost their queen. This caused the hivers to slowly lose their minds as they lost connection with their queen, becoming the mad fogmen that beat on the gates of Mongrel. The physiology of hivers differs much from that of our own, as hivers are an asexual species, meaning they have neither male or female hivers. They are humanoid with a skeletal bug-like appearance, having stick-like arms and legs, which have led many to calling them stickmen. Hivers have very little blood, which gives them a better chance of surviving the harshest wounds, and their bodies can even digest the most foul of meats or even things like teeth, though it has been noted that fish seem to be the favored food of hivers. All this makes it much easier for hivers to find food in a world as barren as ours. The social structure of hivers differs from ours as much as their bodies do in form. Hivers, as their name suggests, live in a hive which is controlled by a queen. These queens are cybernetically augmented beings and are the only ones who are able to reproduce in the hive. These queens use pheromones to control and repress the individuality of hivers, leaving them unable to question the orders of the queen or her hive princes. If a hiver is unfortunate enough to lose their connection to their queen's pheromones for a long enough period of time, they will become insane. Often they will join their damned kin in the Fog Islands, feasting upon the flesh of those poor souls lost in the fog. But there are a few hivers who still retain their sanity. These hivers are known as ronin. These ronin are no longer controlled by the queen's pheromones, gaining for themselves a form of individuality. These ronin are no longer able to rejoin the hive, as those who are still connected with their queen will sense that these ronin are what are termed no-hive, and will often attack them on sight. The sad fate of most ronin is as victims of the many slavers of our world, as slavers often find that hivers make good slaves, as they seldom see the difference between taking orders from a master or a queen. Hivers come in many forms, which seem to be dictated by the job they perform. Under the queens are the hive princes, which act as functionaries and organizers of the day-to-day operations of the hive. These princes will often act as go-betweens of their hive and the rest of the world, doing things like leading the trade caravans of the Western Hive. Hive princes seem to have more autonomy and individuality than other hivers. This makes them better able to grasp more abstract concepts. This has caused many ronin hive princes to be sought after as bookkeepers and bureaucrats for the lords of the United Cities and successful traders in the trade guild. Then there are the drones, the most common of all the hivers, who conduct the labor of the hive and will work the most harsh and dangerous jobs for their queen without complaint. This has caused drones to be the preferred prey of slavers, as drones see little difference between being a slave and serving the hive, and will often happily work themselves to death for their new masters. And then there are the soldiers. These are fierce hivers that defend the hive from the dangers of this world, and will fight any battle for their queen with suicidal glee. Often when these hive soldiers become ronin, they will be little more than violent thugs like the fearsome General Igor of the United Cities. These hivers are highly sought after and valued as bodyguards, mercenaries, with many of them using their combat skills as tech hunters. Little is known of the history of the hivers, as they themselves have little want or need to write down their past, and non-hivers have had very little interest in their study. But there are 2 major theories of their origin. The first and most common theory is that the hivers are native to our moon, living here long before the rise of the First Empire, though there is a flaw to this theory, as hivers did not appear until the final days of the Second Empire, and those skeletons who have isolated themselves since the fall of the Second Empire have no knowledge of hivers and will identify them as humans. Which leads us to the second theory that prescribes to the idea that in the winding days of the Second Empire, Catlan realized they had failed in saving humanity from its own destructive nature. When mankind's instinct to be free caused humanity to rise in rebellion against the Second Empire's heavy-handed tactics that were needed to save their race. Giving up on humanity, but still keeping with the goal of saving life as a whole, Catlon called upon the same esoteric knowledge used in the creation of the Enforcers, which we now call Shek today. With this knowledge, Catlon made a new race of men more capable of surviving in our dying world. Made in the image, not in what we are, but in the image of what Catlon thought humanity should be. Catlon bred out the ideas that caused humanity to rise up against their own salvation, the ideas of individuality, greed, and all that made humanity discontented in the necessarily rigid structures of the Second Empire. The outcome of this project was a race of total obedience to their queen, a people who were happy to do anything to ensure the survival of their species as a whole. These were the pheromone-controlled hivers and their cybernetic queens. Catlon decided in their failure that if they could not save humanity, then they would fix it. In the end, it is likely that the hivers and their history will remain as much of a mystery to us in the future as they are now.